Welcome, everyone, to what the government and certainly social media tyrants believe is a wretched hive of scum and villainy. The In the Tank podcast. We are accused of spreading dis, and malinformation, the latter defined as saying things that are true, but troublesome to the ruling class. So I could not be more proud. Buckle up.
I love the truckers. The truckers are our modern day freedom fighters. They are our Paul Reveres. They're not backing down. They're not afraid of Trudeau. And you can see there were a couple of opportunities there where they tried to bait them and get them into violence, and that didn't happen. You know, no one really talks about this. 14 governors sent a letter to Trudeau and two premiers in Canada telling Trudeau, knock it off, get the exemptions back. And he's not. And what's going to happen is these truckers, many of them are small business owners, they're going to leave. They're going to find something else to do with their time. We already have a shortage of truckers. We have empty shelves in our stores. I thought it was interesting because I'm based in Michigan, and the governor's been complaining, who's running for governor again, complaining about the supply chain issue and the truck industry, the car industry, which is right over the Windsor Bridge. Trucks travel through Michigan night and day. Okay, they supply the car industry 24/7, and she didn't sign that. She didn't sign that letter. So it just kind of tells you where these governors stand. They're not too worried about the supply chain issues. Also, healthcare workers are also mandated to have all their vaccines by this month, by March. And so we've got a shortage of truckers. We've got a shortage of nurses and healthcare workers.
What I find really, it's almost comical. You know, when real workers unite, that makes the left really nervous. Yeah. Workers of the world unite, except for you filthy, disgusting truckers who actually work for a living.
Workers of the world unite, unless you disagree with us.
Right. No. By workers, we meant leftist professors and teachers unions. We didn't mean truckers who actually do the work in this country.
Yeah.
So I found that was funny. But look, this has gone on too long. I think it is absolutely. Actually, I'm jealous as a country. I'm jealous. This could have and should have happened in the United States. It actually hasn't happened in the United States because so many governors are being a little bit more reasonable. Like Florida, we keep forgetting that people, our friends in Florida. There's a Tim Benson who works for the Heartland Institute, lives in Florida. He's like, what are you guys talking about, man? I've been living a normal life for 2 years, for most of the last 2 years. And so, a lot of places in this country, it is a normal life. But in Canada, they just keep locking it down and locking it down. I'm actually getting in favor. I'm almost in favor of just a general strike of all truckers in all of North America, in the United States and Canada, to make the point that this stuff has to end now. It has to end now. And so look, Justin Trudeau is holding the line. He is continuing to have vaccine passports and mandates. I think the deal was you have to show proof of vaccination going from province to province across the country, and then of course to come in and out and cross the border between the United States. And most Canadian truckers are in the United States all the time. That's part of their job. But these provinces, under the pressure, this great pressure that these, in a very peaceful and inspiring protest that these truckers are doing in Ottawa, other provinces in Canada have relaxed their restrictions. The premier of, I think they call them premiers of Ontario, the largest and most populous province in Canada, announced just the other day, yep, we're no more vax mandates, no more masks. The off ramp is like next week. Thank you all for doing your part to keep us safe, but we're relenting. Justin Trudeau is not relenting when everybody around him is. And that is so strange because he is not viewed as some kind of strong leader. I mean, he's Prime Minister Zoolander. He's the Pajama Boy Prime Minister.
Right.
This is a guy who so he's standing strong, and you have to wonder why.
You had Justin Trudeau referring to these protesters as a fringe group with unacceptable views, which we could have a whole conversation on that. But this idea that it was just like a handful of troublemakers type of a thing. I don't know if those comments were made before some of these images that you see where these crowds just stretch on for as far as the eye can see. And it seemed like there was an entire PR campaign waged to demonize these protesters, equating the protesters to terrorists and Nazis and bigots and racists and transphobes and basically any other name that you could think of. Prime Minister Zoolander called these people. GoFundMe. There was a GoFundMe campaign to support the truckers' protests that raised like $10 million or something like that. and GoFundMe shut it down. For they probably gave a reason, but I'm sure it's not a good reason. So an alternative Give Send Go was created, and then this was hacked, and the donor list was leaked, and these hacked donor lists were shared on Twitter. Twitter didn't do anything about it, even though they supposedly have terms and service stuff talking about how you can't share stolen whatever, the justification that they use to not run the story about Hunter Biden's laptop or anything like that. But no, these hacked doxed donors for this Give Send Go, that was allowed to be sent around.
It's still out there right now.
There was gasoline bans. They weren't allowed to sell gasoline to these truckers. And there's been a whole number of things that the governments have tried to do to basically break up these protests. But they have stood strong, and they continue on. Chris, you were going to say something?
Yeah, so I've been watching this, pretty closely with the past couple of weeks, and they've done a lot of interviews with truckers from their cabs. So we know why the truckers are doing this, and they're not doing this just because of the vaccine mandates. 90% of truckers in Canada have taken the vaccine. I think they said like 85% of Canadians have taken the vaccine. Donnie, they're doing this for the simple reason that 2.5 years into this pandemic, it's still restrictions. It's still that's what they're fighting against. They're fighting for their freedom, and they've made it very clear. And you know what? Most Canadians support them. Canadians are in solidarity with the truckers, because the truckers are just saying, hey, you know what? We are going to finally stand up for the people. And the draconian measures that Justin Trudeau is taking, where he is, taking away their licenses, and he is debanking them, and he is just really making, life very difficult for them. I really hope that backfires on Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau is not the dictator of Canada. He's a wannabe despot, and he needs to be put in his place.
Well, I think Chris has put his finger on it. It's about people who have gotten a taste of tyranny and absolute power, and really like the taste of it, and don't want to stop. We've said on this podcast many times, you cannot comply yourself to freedom. You can't comply yourself back to the way things were. You're only going to continue. This only goes in one direction when you keep complying and doing whatever your without the real proper authority, whatever your authorities and your ruling class tells you to do. Look, I think that Justin Trudeau could end all of this tomorrow, right now, at this very moment. He could end all of this. He could just say, I'm going to follow the advice. We're going to do now here in Canada what Sweden has done, what the state of Florida has done, what even the province of Ontario has done, and that is to end the mask mandates and end the vaccine mandates as well. We could just move forward. That's all he has to do. If he did that, those trucks would be out of there in 10 minutes. But he's not going to do that. And you have to wonder why. Why is Justin Trudeau not doing this, doing things that other leaders around the world have done and have no problem with it? And I think, when the truckers were approaching Ottawa a couple of weeks ago, Justin Trudeau left. He went to an undisclosed location and did not pop his head out of his out of his hole for a couple of days. And I have a feeling, and that this isn't exactly an original thought. I mean, Jesse Kelly, if anybody listening to this podcast is familiar with him, his radio show, he had mentioned this the other day, and I think it's spot on. I think, and it ties into the Great Reset stuff that we talk about on this podcast a lot. I think when he was down in his undisclosed location in his bunker, he got a phone call from his fellow global leaders and globalists that go to things like the World Economic Forum, and they said, "Look, Pajama Boy, if you break, it's done for all of us.
Right.
You cannot let a group of deplorables, these dirty, filthy, ignorant truckers who don't know their place, you can't let those people push us around. You can't let them have their will be done. No. Our will be done. And if you go down, we all go down. So this is why, that's the only explanation that makes sense to me as to why, when everybody around him is being reasonable and finally giving up these emergency powers, he still refuses.